Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Want to remind everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe. There's a PayPal link in the details section for anybody that wants to share some love. And of course, the StreamYard link is pinned today in case anybody wants to join the panel. We've got John here with us. How you doing tonight, John?
Hello, Keith. How you doing?
I'm doing good despite the weather. Weather's been kind of crazy. We got 65 one day, 30 the next day, 60 the next day, and 35 today. It's just ridiculous. But we can put up with that. So we're going to talk tonight again about that business, that United States business. And we're going to start out. I've got 6 codes up here, and I'm going to hopefully be able to show people a simple path as to what's going on here. From enumeration at birth, which is a presumption, right from the start. That's what we're going to end up with. But what we're going to start with is the records that are maintained on that individual that is born. And that's that enumeration at birth is the first record made. So let's get into it.
Well, Keith, for just 1 second, I'm just reviewing some of your shows the last 2 weeks, and I'm still trying to understand how they attach like an asset to a debt corporation when you're born. That's very interesting because there's no board of directors. No one authorized them to do that.
Correct.
So I just thought I'd tell you that.
Right, and that's why everything remains a presumption, and we'll go over that because one of the codes we're going to talk about is 12 U.S.C. 614, which is a communication with the Federal Reserve that you are organized and running a business, and therefore have a business structure and a corporate policy known as bylaws and corporate officers, which none of that ever becomes true unless you do follow that path and create your own business. And even then, a sole proprietorship or an LLC, you don't have such things. You don't have a board of directors that can file a claim in these administrative courts. So we're going to go over the first one here is 5 U.S.C. 552A, which is, we've gone over this before very briefly, and it's actually a extensive code. If you look at the sidebar here that I've got my cursor on as you scroll down, this is a long code. You know, it's relatively long. It's got a lot of information packed in there. And you can see the bottom, it refers to a lot of different public laws and other titles and stuff as the authorities. So this is just much like we explained the one day legalese. This is how in-depth this stuff gets. And that's why it's important to be able to learn the concise English language and how they construct this stuff so you can actually follow along. Many people are not taught that. So it's a matter of self-education or extra tutoring after you get out of high school, because they're not going to teach you this stuff. They're not going to even present these codes to you. They don't even present these codes to the college students that are going to college for law degrees, except through a presentment through a case law. And that's still an administrative process. And if you look at those, you can see oftentimes, in my opinion, a lot of those opinions, and that's all they are still misconstrusions of what is fact. And that's why it's important to understand all of this is just definitions, which are merely another man's opinion. That's it. Definitions are definitions, and this is why I say you really should get to a thesaurus, because that's going to give you a definition with all of the words that apply to that particular definition. So let's get into it. First one here, like I said, is 5 U.S. Code 552A, records maintained on individuals. And this is that thing, individuals. This is that state's vital statistics jurisdiction that is established upon the birth of one being, otherwise known as an individual.
Which is a private person, Keith, right?
Correct. And it says under these definitions, for purposes of this section, and again, we remember Title V is employees. Okay? So records maintained on individuals under Title V would still be individual employees. Remember that. And they are employees of some kind of agency. The term agency means agency as defined in Section 552E. So it's going to be E, the lowercase subsection, and it's going to be down below. The term individual means a citizen of the United States. So the individual, when we click on this being blue line highlighted, it's going to bring us right back to this very definition. And I'll show you. 552A, A2. Term individual means a citizen of the United States or an alien lawfully admitted for permanent residence. It is the exact same definition, so it's just bringing us back to this definition. And the important part is citizen of the United States. The United States being a business, as we already know, as well as the citizenship, which is known as a nationality by their terms. But remember that U.S. nationality is capitalized and therefore refers nothing but United States as a nationality of an individual for permanent residence. The next one, and stop me anytime you need to, John, and I'll keep checking the platform, see if anybody wants to come up. That link is pinned. So the next one is 5 CFR 575.102 definitions. Now remember, the last one was U.S. Code. This one is the Code of Federal Regulations. So the U.S. Code codifies it, and the matching or corresponding definitions are usually found in the Code of Federal Regulations, wherein the enforcement is held. So again, Title V is administrative personnel, in other words, employees. Office of Personnel Management, Civil Service Regulations, Recruitment, Relocation, and Retention incentives. And when they talk about retention incentives, that's the like the recruitment incentives. They have recruitment incentives and retention incentives once they've recruited you and you've served for a certain term under that recruitment. It's a military government. Supervisory differentials and extended assignment incentives. So it's an assignment. Now, assignment is a term of trust wherein a grantee assigns a trustee in a trust. And where do we see assignment? An assignment of a number upon enumeration at birth for the individual so assigned, while remembering that the individual's name and number merely identify the record. It will never identify yourself. It merely represents and identifies the record. So, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Yeah, the word individual only shows up like with IRAs. It's a word that's not really used too much in the legal world.
Right. And also, if you look at the word individual and you break it down, you can look this up in online or anything. I think we'll do that real quick. Individual. Okay, so we have an adjective as an individual, and that individual as an adjective is converted to a noun by a given name. Now, that given name has an attachment that is a legacy inheritance known as a surname. Many people call it a family name. They combine those two through the enumeration at birth to create a legal representation known as a presumption. Because at that point, again, if you were just born, you cannot represent a corporate entity yet. So it's entered into the record as a presumption, and nobody defeats that presumption by going through and getting that organization qualified. Okay?
All right, so that's the representative entity, Keith, right? At birth.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is single and separate. In other words, separate would be like exclusive. See if they have exclusive in here. Nope. But they have discrete, independent, sole, lone, solitary, isolated. But it would also mean exclusive. Let's see if exclusive is a synonym. Oh, looky there. Exclusive. Similar and opposite words. Adjective, complete, full, entire, whole, total, absolute. This is relation to absolution. Okay? Sole, undivided, unshared, unique, only, individual. So as I said, individual is a synonym to exclusive. And so upon the enumeration at birth, determining a individual, it becomes an exclusive jurisdiction, exclusive to that individual because of the attachment of the number and the creation of that legal name. That is unique. Unique. Another.
It's a incomplete legal name because there's no ink at the end of your
Right.
name.
Exactly. It's never been incorporated. It's an unorganized, unincorporated presumption that sits there waiting for somebody to activate it in a proper process that is due. Understand that term too, due. So let's go back to the 5 CFR 575.102 definitions. Now, as you see the sidebar over here, it's not as long. We're still not going to read all of these, but we're going to read some of them here because some of them are important to comprehending what's going on here. Agency means an executive agency or a legislative branch agency included in 5 U.S.C. 5102. So now we have the regulation part saying that agency means something according to a different section. For the purpose of this chapter, agency means an executive agency, the Library of Congress, the Botanic Gardens, the Government Publishing Office. It's where everything they make public, those individual records, right? May have private information, but there's some public information that they use for statistics. That's what they use. That's what they're going for. But in so doing, everybody's confused and they enter in their data elements with private data elements and don't know that there's a statistical difference between a difference between the statistical record and the health record or private record. The Office of the Architect of the Capitol, the government of the District of Columbia. The government of the district. That's different than the government of the United States, isn't it? Or is it? But does not include a government-controlled corporation. So if you're but if it doesn't include a government-controlled corporation, but yet they say you're subject to these administrative courts, then they're saying that you are a government-controlled corporation because of that United States citizenship, which is a United States business. Okay? So let's go back to the other one. Authorized agency official. This would be the representative, the authorized representative, and you are an agency official, the Social Security Administration, upon that enumeration and taking upon that legal name title, the SS5, at the age of 18 even. Mom and dad in this public education system seems to have taught people how to be a business upon the age of 18 and have everything done and accomplished so they can appropriately conduct their affairs in such a manner. Yet that's not what happened. It remains a presumption. Even when you fill out that SS5, if you have not communicated with the Federal Reserve and established yourself in an organized manner, then what you've actually done is handed over the estate to the state to continue administrating under a burial trust. Okay? Authorized agency official means the head of an agency or an official who is authorized to act for the head of an agency in the matter concerned. And the subject matter is United States business, because that's exactly the head of the agency that you are. You're the head of a United States business. Competencies. I got a buddy they're trying to put through to a competency test, and I'm hopefully going to be able to get together with him later today or tomorrow again and go over some stuff. They took his kids away from him and everything, and it's just an amazing set that they're trying to pull him in for competency when he's the one that's proving that what they're doing is wrong. And so competencies means the knowledge, skills, abilities, behaviors, and other characteristics an individual needs to perform the duties of a position. So if the administrative law judge doesn't understand or have the competency to realize that by these very definitions, that United States citizen that he is administrating the affairs of under a probated estate as a resident, which is all still a presumption, and doesn't understand that he can't hold that against somebody that is not so organized, then he is the one that is incompetent. I hope everybody understands that. Now, employee has the meaning given that term in 5 U.S.C. 2105, except that the term, that means there is an exception, not an exemption, an exception. Two different terms again. That the term also includes an employee described in 5 U.S.C. 2105C for the purpose of determining whether an individual was an employee of the federal government during the 90-day period referred to in the definition of newly appointed. Employee also includes an employee described in 2105E. So now we got C and E. For the purpose of 575D, so now we have D, an employee means an individual not yet employed who has received a written offer to be newly appointed. What is that offer? That's the enumeration at birth. Have we received it? Have we received it? Not until you get that certificate. They're still holding it. Go ahead.
And Keith, how could they set up a resident before the U.S. citizen?
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. Absolutely, great point. Great point. You cannot set up a resident before you determine the United States citizenship in full, because the United States citizen is then deemed to be a resident because he was born in the United States and was a citizen of the United States first, and then moved out of the United States and now resided on the other side of the border of the United States externally into one of the 50 or one of the other states of the Union. And that's not what happened. They declared both at the same time, according to the record. They established a presumption for everything through and through at the beginning. That's exactly what the enumeration at birth does. As we looked at that chart, it's entered in one spot, and then it goes out to all these other agencies. That's a blockchain. It used to blockchain in the definitive paper network, where they would have that creation. They would send it out to certain agencies that would hold those records so they could correlate them internally with each other to make sure that they were certified and accurate. Today, we have an electronic world where now all those agencies, they're many more enumerated because they find that the statistical data elements are required in all of those different agencies for all of their research. And it is an experiment. My opinion, of course, this is not legal advice of any sort, nor is it medical advice, nor is it teaching or anything like that. Okay, or reappointed and has signed the written service agreement required by section 575.110 before payment of the recruitment incentive. Okay, so we find that your recruitment incentive later on in these codes, we will find that that is a military definition, and therefore the recruitment incentive for the federal government as an employee through agency is a military position. Again, enumeration at birth, minimum birth registration requirements under 5 U.S.C. 301, which is departmental regulations, and you'll note in there it's applicable to the Department of Defense and is submitted under a plain writing law. Executive agency has the meaning given that term in 5 U.S.C. 105. And here's the important one. Federal government means all entities. So that agency is an entity of the government of the United States. The United States we know is a business, a federal corporation. And a United States citizen is a United States business, an entity of the United States. So that United States citizen is an agency of the federal government, telling us that you yourself are the federal government. Are you competent of these definitions to make that discernment and take upon the proper service agreement and get paid so rightfully? Newly appointed refers to the first appointment, regardless to tenure, as an employee of the federal government. Now, the assignment of the number is at the enumeration at birth. That's the establishment of the trust. The appointment is the appointment under a contract, and that's the SS5 that you file or fill out when you turn 18, so that you can go get a job and become employed. That's the problem. Everything still remains a presumption. Go ahead, John.
And assignment means transfer property.
Correct. It's a, as we saw on the one code here a while back, under, I think it was 49 CFR or something. Endorsement means an amendment to an insurance policy, and insurance is a derivative of being in surety. Greetings, Iman. How you doing tonight?
Greetings, brother. All is well. And in fact, they would all have to be enrolled agents. And I just was reading about that past day in Investopedia. I yield.
Yep. And we live in a capitalist society, which is competitive contract, and it's a time-limited appointment in the competitive or accepted service. Again, you go down, you turn 18, and in order to get a job, you have to fill out the SS5 so you can get a Social Security card and an identification. So then you go down to the DOT or Department of Motor Vehicles to get either an identification or a Social Security or a driver's license, and you have to have that Social Security card and the birth certificate to acquire that. And that birth certificate, instead of qualifying that, you hand it over to the Department of Transportation or the Department of Motor Vehicles. You just entered into the commercial system in Admiralty Maritime without assignment in the proper capacity of qualifying your signature and letting them know that you are a benefactor to the trust. And that's the only reason you would need that identification. And that process is to be done through the Department of State and not Department of Motor Vehicles.
So you go into the to a default position of sub-trustee, since you're not
Correct.
taking benefactor.
Correct. You're giving up all rights, titles, and interests to the property, and the property is, in fact, the name. You give up your right to execute the name in the proper capacity by not knowing how to execute the proper capacity through the signature by qualifying it by benefactor. Without recourse, by benefactor, pay to the order of whatever. And this is important information that they don't teach you in the public education system. Otherwise, this system doesn't work for their benefit, where they can rape, rob, and pillage the estates. Okay, so the next one, OPM, of course, means Office of Personnel Management. And that personnel management, again, is a military employee. And the service agreement means a written agreement between an agency and an employee under which the employee agrees to a specified period of employment of not less than 6 months or 4 years with the agency in return for payment of a recruitment incentive. So again, that recruitment incentive being the 4-year minimum term for a male as required, or today, again, under a greater ambiguous presumption, females sign up with a service agreement, not understanding that the service agreement is that selective service for the multiple other jurisdictions that they get to use against you and your exclusive jurisdiction, because you haven't established your exclusive jurisdiction as private. Again, Department of State correction of identification to prevent misidentification. Go ahead, sister.
And like you said, brother, when you look up SSN, the acronym can be either or the other: Social Security number or Selective Service number.
Right. And when you guys look up your selective service number, put in, how do I find my selective service number? And when your search comes up, it should take you to a Social Security page. On that Social Security page, it will tell you, it will give you the directive to enter your Social Security number without the dashes. And again, the Social Security number without the dashes is the obligor number. And that obligor number then sends you to your selective service number. And that is a totally different number. So the number that they're using that is identical to the Social Security number without dashes is most certainly not the selective service number. And therefore, they have misidentified the Social Security number by not including the 2 hyphens, and it has converted it to an obligor number. That's an unknown, undisclosed conversion to many people. And until you get that financial index from that local courthouse showing it, you're not going to know it. And therefore, it remains undisclosed. And that's the only reason I found it, because I was doing my research both in and off the internet. I read everything I can, every document somebody else gives me. I pay attention when they issue new types of traffic citations. They've been this same type of citation for numbers of years here in the local area, and all of a sudden it takes on a new form. They created it. It still doesn't have an OMB number. Those are still municipal codes they're using as if though they relate to the state statutes, and they don't. Municipal codes are written by a publishing company hired by the local municipality that interprets state statutes and then rewrite them. That's not the same language. That's using a different grammar. It does not apply. See what I'm saying? That's literally a different service contract. It's a different service agreement.
An interpretation.
Correct. Absolutely. So let's take a look at the next one. Is the actual 28 U.S. code is the governmental definitions themselves and stuff. It has to do with this one here, Counsel for the United States, means a United States attorney, not a state attorney, a United States attorney. And again, you do not have access to the courts of equity under common law unless you get the common law of the state to recognize that it is automatic and mandatory removal for federal question because of the United States citizenship so attached to the resident. It is a superior jurisdiction, and that they have to deal with the United States for all obligations and other securities of the United States, even if it is considered a state security, because the states get their ability to create state securities through the municipal bonds merely because they ceded their jurisdiction to that of the United States through their very own different form of service agreements, one of which is the enumeration at birth. The United States Attorney and Assistant United States Attorney designated designated to act on behalf of the United States Attorney or any attorney within the United States Department of Justice or with a federal agency who has litigation authority, and any private attorney. They have to recognize the private attorney, but again, that private attorney is one that's gone to college and maintains a certification but not so licensed. Okay? Authorized by contract, and he can make a private contract with another private man, but he cannot make a representation in the court because all he can do under that private contract is file the instrumentalities to so move the court on the private side. Made in accordance with Section 3718 of Title I, Money and Finance. Title 31, General, the budget process, financial management, money, general assistance administration, miscellaneous. Title 31. To conduct litigation for collection of debts on behalf of the United States. See, nobody's supposed to be collecting debts on behalf of anybody but the United States, because it's the United States that is obligated for all debts, public and private. Both the issuings, the Congress shall lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. Not the states. They're posing as collectors through an administrative process, which is a delegation to act as collectors. Court means any court created by the Congress of the United States, excluding United States Tax Court, because government instrumentalities of the United States are not taxable. Government instrumentalities of the United States are not taxable. Debt. An amount that is owing to the United States on account of a direct loan or loan insured or guaranteed by the United States, or an amount that is owing to the United States on account of fee, duty, lease, rent, service, sale of real or personal property, overpayment, fine, assessment, penalty, restitution, damages, interest, tax, bail, bond, forfeiture, reimbursement, recovery of a cost incurred by the United States, or other source of indebtedness to the United States, but that is not owing under the terms of a contract originally entered into by only persons other than the United States. But that is not owing under the terms of a contract originally entered into by only persons other than the United States. The SS5. But that is not owing under the terms of a contract originally entered into. So you see the problem with that title, or that SS5, is that you're entering into a contract but it's owed to the state. But again, that's again only because you were never taught how to qualify your signature and gave up all rights, titles, and interests to the name so enumerated. So let's go on to the next one, which is that trade shows. To continue on with that individual records that we started out with. That individual record creates the United States citizen. And under E, definitions, 15 U.S.C. 4742, as used in this section, which is 15 is foreign trade and commerce. The term United States business means a United States citizen. A corporation, partnership, or other association created under the laws of the United States or any state, or a foreign corporation, partnership, or other association, more than 95% of which is owned by persons described in subparagraphs A and B. Why would you own 95% or more? Anybody?
What was the question again, Keith?
It says a foreign corporation, partnership, or other association, more than 95% of which is owned by persons described in subparagraphs A and B being a United States citizen, a corporation, partnership, blah, blah, blah. Why is it you would own more than 95% of a United States citizen?
Shit, I don't know.
Because without you, it would have no existence at all.
Oh, okay.
Can we all agree on that? I mean, I think that's a reasonable conjecture at this point. Again, it's just another presumption. It's not legal advice. It's certainly not a mathematical equation. It's just a conjecture that if you don't give them the information, then they don't have anything to found in enumeration and keep a record of. So therefore, before it gets into their hands, it's 100% yours. And that means that it's a mere association of information. And again, if you qualify that or know how to qualify that, know how to own it, know how to distribute it, know how to use it, whatever, then you're the one that executes every instrument, and you do so appropriately or accordingly. And that's what's not happening. They're presuming that they own everything, and it's again property held in abeyance until a proper claimant comes forward and makes a claim. They're holding it, but 100% of it is yours. Excuse me, 95% or more is yours. The very little that they have is merely just the record that they hold, which they are liable for. So release that minimum liability they have so that they can release the credit. That's the simple process, is to make everything a service agreement as it's meant to be, to release them of their liabilities by not taking upon any liabilities yourself so that the credits can be extended. So let's continue on. The term small business means any small business concern as identified under section 632 of this title. And I believe, yeah, that is where we're going to find our presumption definition. 15 U.S. Code 632 definitions is the definition of presumption. And we're going to go down here to W. Wherein we have the definition of presumption, guys. And it says, in every contract, subcontract, cooperative agreement, cooperative research and development agreement. This is an important process. Development is an important process. Again, if you're unincorporated and unorganized, there is a term or a period of time that it takes to develop into that particularized United States business. Greetings, brother. How you doing tonight?
Good. How about you?
Good, good.
I know never to enter your studio buzzed. I took a couple of hits, and it took me 5 minutes to even log on here.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I was. Yeah, I was down the other night. I had a blue screen of death hit my computer, and it took me a couple days to get that sorted out. And then today I got up and there was no audio, so I spent half the day figuring that out.
Yeah, and I'm a computer guy, so with me it's like, oh man. But it's all good. Continue, my friend.
So then we have development agreement, and under this development agreement, this is what happens, guys, and they're telling you in their own code, or grant, which is set aside. Okay, so when mom gave birth and you were born, there was a grant. Mom granted as an informant certain information to the hospital, and that grant is a language of trust, and what it did was established a burial trust. Okay, that was the grant. That burial trust was set aside, and that's because nobody knew about it, and it was set aside as an abandonment, and that's why the state registered that birth to establish documentary evidence of a burial trust. Okay? So that was the thing that was established as a development agreement. It was the establishment of a legal name, the foundation of a legal corporate entity that never developed, never organized, never became incorporated. The state still has possession of it, but it is 95% information, and that's yours. The other 5% is the mere paperwork that information is held in.
You know what? It's like that's where they entered your soul and they took yours. You know, it's like that switcheroo thing right there. You know,
Yeah,
so they took charge of us.
Right. It was it was a bifurcation. There's one path. And what they did when you were born, you were discharged as a man of your mother's waters. That's a discharge. So a discharge happened, and it bifurcated because mom and dad never memorialized that discharge, proving that there was a living soul. So a record was created, and it has a duality to it. Boom. 2 levels. Okay, this level is held down here.
Correct?
Right.
They took that birthright away right there.
And
to
that
everything, to all.
Right, and that birthright was hidden because a document was created in the public forum, which everybody could see, which is an overlying document. Overlying. It's very important to understand this language, guys. So it was bifurcated. It means it was 2 paths.
Overlying a better lie.
Right. And so now we have this path that everybody thinks is a higher path. Yeah. And that's that materialistic bullshit. Get rid of it.
So Keith, it sounds
I like the way you speak because you stop in between words, like, you know, lying. All those things are important, and they're so simple.
Yes. Yep.
But we constantly cast spells.
Yep.
So Keith, it's like that. They created the instrument when the mother became the informant and gave data elements, and it was created into a instrument, and that instrument became deposited for future use.
Right. And you'll notice on a certificate of live birth, not the birth certificate, but the certificate of live birth that you would get from the local county registrar, that's going to have 3 signatures on it. That's a grantee, and co-trustees, and then the name of the benefactor is on there, but it's not called a benefactor. But if you understand trust law, that's what you'll see, and you'll be able to show them, and they can't deny that trust.
Exactly. And that trust, you don't have to show them the trust. That trust is, you just have to express it in other ways. Stand on your box. It gets really spiritual, I found. You know?
Correct. Correct.
But everything you're saying is correct. I stand. I love that it's backwards, right? People go, "Oh, correct, correct." No, I'm not going to correct. I am incorrect. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yep.
always incorrect. And people, I've had arguments, and people are like, "Well, yeah, you're saying you're wrong." I'm like, "No, I'm incorrect. I'm correct."
Right.
Correct
And
to
if
say
you
I'm
understand,
correct. You need fixing.
and if you know what correct means, it's the core, and you erect things, you resurrect things, resurrect. What's resurrect? It's resurrect. That's why I'm telling you, it's not a
Yep.
family name. That too is a delusional English term. It is a surname, and you are supposed to resurrect in a proper surname, and that is the surname of Israel. Isaiah 43:1 and 44:5.
A proper. A proper.
Correct. Right.
Yeah. That
And
little
so we,
breakdown is important.
yep. And so we
Proper.
continue on. And after it says, or grant, which is set aside, that's the property held in abeyance until the proper claimant comes forth and makes a claim. And instead of making the claim, it's reserved until you're 18 and otherwise classified when you submit that SS5 as intended for award to a small business concern. You've now stated your small business concern, and instead of appropriately accepting the estate and removing it from the state's possession, you signed up as a classified employee. You're requesting the SS5 so you can get a social security card, so you can go down the DMV and get an individual identification or a driver's license by also attaching it to a birth certificate. That's the monetary instrument that started it all, and you never qualified that signature, just like mom never qualified the signature on the certificate of live birth.
And as you
It's
said
where
before,
they took your
Keith,
creative power.
Yep.
and as
Go
you
ahead.
said a few shows ago or a few weeks ago, your parents didn't herald the legacy heir in the public record.
Correct. They didn't call the newspaper up and say, "Hallelujah, we have a legacy heir that's here to put forth the word of God, and we shall train him up in the ways of the Lord so that the next generation can hear the same message."
Recorded in the Bible.
Proverbs 22:6. Train a child up in the ways of the Lord, and he will not depart from it. Depart from it. And that's what we're
Our
supposed to be
family
doing.
Bible is like that. It has a recording of all of us, and I dropped the ball on that. I'm going to have to pick that up and continue with my children, because that's the true recording of our history, right? I mean, who we are individually.
Yep.
I would think.
And so here's where we were talking earlier about the debt, and the debt's always the United States no matter what. Because in this one, the presumption, as it starts out in every contract, and let's just get rid of all the rest of this stuff. It says there shall be a presumption of loss to the United States. That's the presumption, that in every contract, every signature you make, there's a loss to the United States based on the total amount expended on the contract, subcontract, cooperative agreement, cooperative research, willfully sought and received the award by misrepresentation. So did you willfully sign that document? Knowingly or unknowingly, does not matter. You willfully sought some kind of benefit, equal consideration, equal benefit. You sought some kind of benefit by filling out some kind of application, and you received that employment, that award, that weekly paycheck, or whatever it was, even if you go to the administrative courts and you get an award, that's a contract and it's presumption of a loss of the United States. And that again tells me that they're the ones that are liable for all debts, public and private, once again. They're the original issuer.
Mhm. Yeah, that deficit, that money that our trade deficit, that money owed, that big global money, that is what's owed to us, to the people. You
Absolutely.
have it backwards. That's what is owed to you and me and them. We,
That's
the
the
humans, the
dividend.
creators.
That's the
And so when
dividend.
we look at that aspect, we need to start claiming that debt. All the shit that we spend with money, we need to get those receipts and get the credit for them. It'll bring the debt down.
Here's
You can
one guy.
bankrupt some companies.
Here's one guy up in Canada. He's got a phone bill that he's been putting off for 11 months. Not putting off. He's been, dealing with him for 11 months on it, and has not paid. He's issued certain documents or issues the bill in a certain way, the billing statement or whatever, and presents the account number that he's found. Again, this is about account numbers and how to route them. And so he's found a direct routing that says he doesn't have to pay for the phone bill. However, again, I assert that those coupons at the bottom are actually dividend checks, and you should be getting a check in return. So that's
Yeah,
the
you should
next
be
part we're working
endorsing
on.
those. People have that.
Right.
Yeah, you're correct, Keith. Yes, people have that screwed up. They send those in thinking that's payment. No, that's your dividend check.
Right.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
And there 96 is a code on the remittance voucher, and that's what we're figuring out. Like I said, he's using that 96 account number, and he's got it directed so that he doesn't have to pay it. But I think with the correct number, it should come back as the credit that he put out.
Right.
So
And
that
he's probably taking he's actually it's people think accepted for value. He's accepting, he's endorsing it. We're the only ones that can endorse anything, putting
right, we're the principal.
our power to it.
Right,
That's why they took it at birth. They took our power from us. But once you
right.
start,
That's at 95%. We're the principal, guys.
yes, yes, this gets spiritual, and so we're the creator, so we can endorse it. Yeah, I agree. I stand right beside you on it. Yeah.
Yep. And here in the for the United States, it's HGR 192 and Public Law 7310. But in Canada, it's the 96. It's page 43 of Rule H6, Bill of Exchange Act. So here in the United States, we've got like I said, the House Joint Resolution 192 and Public Law 73-10. And under the Bill of Exchange law, those two documents show that we can't use gold or substance like that for contracts anymore. Those are only done in simple trust where you make an immediate exchange. Otherwise, the paperwork that we use for contracting and paying things today is known as a negotiable instrument. And so long as that paper exists, it is negotiable. So as long as the record exists, even in electronic form, it is negotiable. It is not until you are able to correct the record to remove your private data elements for their value, knowing that you're the 95% owner, will that record ever do anything for you. In my opinion, again, this is not legal advice, this is not accounting advice or anything. Go ahead, sister.
So Keith, it sounds like the people would be keeping the bookkeeping, which would be the record with the plus and the minus, and these corporations will have to be dealing with the accounting part of it, because then they will have to go through the 5 different steps. There's 5 different steps within the accounting process. So, and part of it is where they're doing the maintenance. Um, I forgot. I wrote it all down yesterday because I was reading all that. I think I sent you an email regarding what I was reading regarding that. I yield.
All right, I'll have to take a look at it when I get done.
Sister,
So,
you're the recorder. Think of restitching a book like a spiral. You're the recorder. So you being that, it's you're creating the documents, and as long as the documents are easy to follow, I found it's the best approach because I can't remember codes and statutes. All I can do is stand on my honor. So it is your account. Your truth stands before everybody, really. So yeah,
Exactly, because
you are the
yeah,
accountant.
because what's
All your
happening
accounting.
yes, because what's happening as we're doing the recording, then it's the inch it's the what they call the basic, like when you go for a job they tell you, they give you the entry level. So the recording, the bookkeeping is the entry level to the accounting process. That's how I see it when we're doing our recording.
Is it
right.
possible, Keith, that we're, as the last holder of an instrument, CFOs?
Absolutely. CEO.
But don't call you
Yeah,
are
you
the
don't.
creator.
Yeah,
You're
I
a
am.
creator.
Yeah, it is under my authorization. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8. It was created specifically for my use by my mom and dad as they were so inspired. And every breath I take is meant to be an act of God in that name. Just because I fell off the path because nobody else was able to teach me that path, and I became indoctrinated in the public education propaganda institution, doesn't mean I haven't been able to qualify it through my own proper education myself. I have sought the counsel of a higher education, the Almighty, who our Father which art in heaven.
Who you
That's
represent.
yes,
Exactly.
as an image and
So I
likeness.
mean, he is here, and that's who I represent. We
Yep.
speak on our terms, and don't worry about it.
Right.
you know.
And by us following the Most High or the Creator, however you call, or the Almighty, we are the true authors
Yes.
Yep.
of our destiny.
Okay, so the last one I've got here, I'm only going to read the title. Okay. Again, do not believe me. Do not believe your neighbor. Do not believe the government. Do not believe your mother, for crying out loud. Do your research so you know. Um, just the title alone in plain writing will tell you there are certain things that are required. So let's read it. It says organization certificate. Okay, that's the birth certificate. So organized as an establishment of a legal entity in an all caps name. Okay. Now, let me get my stuff here moved. Hold on a second. The next one is acknowledgement. Okay. So the record presumes that there's an organization certificate out there. Okay. The establishment of the legal fiction at birth. And there's an acknowledgement of that legal fiction. But there's never been any forwarding to or filing of an approval by the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System to permit you to do business with a body corporate, okay? Name, seal, corporate succession, contracts, suits, directors, officers, and employees, bylaws. See, if you don't have that stuff, you're not permitted to do business. Technically. This is why you have to have an ID to prove that you're not
This is
trading
why
with
you
an
come in
enemy.
as a foreigner. Come in as a foreigner
Correct.
and do
I am
business.
I am foreign to the body corporate that was so organized upon enumeration at birth, but never developed fully. I am still in development stage, and so being still in development stage, under American interests, I not only have the right to know, but you have a duty to educate me. Does that make sense?
As a child.
Absolutely, you did not educate me appropriately. You're bringing up a population of people that have a 7th to 8th grade reading comprehension on an average. And if you think that makes a healthy nation, then you have a messed up body of educators and a messed up body of people that regulate those educators. Again,
don't think that.
I ask if the medical society thinks they're so intelligent. I want to make one question. Are you Christian? As you take upon that service agreement in residency in a military hospital and take an oath to Apollo and the Greek gods. So as you claim you're a Christian and commit blasphemy in the medical society as doctors, I have no trust in you. I have no faith in you. I believe you. Huh?
In me, personally?
No, in these that take Hippocratic oath.
Oh, you keep on saying you, so I'm like, oh, it's talking to
No,
me.
no. I'm speaking to the general populace that this applies to, and that's those doctors that take a Hippocratic oath.
Okay, I don't hold any of this, but I'll listen. I keep on thinking you're talking with me. I'm thinking, man, I don't think that.
No.
Remember, the U owes a debt to the United States. It's not talking about private men and women.
Correct. It is the individual, so identify the individual's name and number identify the record. And so here, told you I got my birth certificate. I got 3 of them. And I'll tell you why I got 3 of them. Get rid of my
You're the only
background.
one that can give credit to that by endorsing it. People are always looking for their certified birth certificate. You only get a copy. Well, it's all of them are a copy until you endorse it. Ourselves, you, me, them. That's crazy. Putting our power into it, giving it credit where credit is due.
So I got a receipt, method of delivery showing that I received it, and I am a receiver in receivership in a trust transaction, in a trust operation. Okay. Paper receipt, as well as I've got a print up of the electronic receipt from the internet from when I ordered it. I've got a nice little letter from the State of Iowa Department of Health and Human Services. So it is an estate document. And like I've said many times before, every state is required to have a state recovery program, and it is managed by the Health and Human Services. And this is the enumeration at birth where they create that state's vital statistics jurisdiction through the Health and Human Services of the state. Not Social Security, but the Health and Human Services.
So
Then we have, let me see, get it up in here. You'll notice that's all caps. Okay? That's all caps.
Have you copyright your name yet or trademarked it?
Don't need to.
So Keith,
well,
it
does away with a lot of that.
So wouldn't their copy created become a forgery in the all caps?
No. It's documentary evidence of a United States business. Guess what? This is a share of a United States business.
Yes.
This is another share. This is another share. I got 3 shares of a United States business. One's going to go to the local county, one's going to go to the state, one's going to go to the United States. They're all 3 going to have a matching document issuing credit. This is a credit device, and it's going to be mechanized in their system under my opinion, of course. I'm not saying it's going to work. This is my attempt to develop and document the facts supplemental to the record known as an individual at this point in time. It's going to show that the individual has a United States business, and that business even though it's a United States business, is not organized nor is it incorporated yet. It is merely a private foundation. It's documentary evidence of a private. It's never been organized under 12 U.S.C. 614. Therefore, it technically has no permit to do business. Therefore, the state Social Security Administration authorizing me to do so has taken on a liability by authorizing me to do so, but never allowed me to educate myself, or nor did they educate me with intent so that there would be no liability in these supposed contracts.
That's a quasi-private document in the sense that there's a real doctor's signature, right, Keith?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this one doesn't have the doctor's signature on it. This is the birth certificate. The certificate of live birth at the local county would have that, but this is still documentary evidence, and all you got to do is capture that document of title. That's the entitlement. That's what proves the trust. So you can get both. I can't seem to get both at this point in time. One of these days, I will make a trip over to that cocksucker over there in Dubuque County and talk to him face to face, though, because they're the ones that are denying it. They're saying they don't have any record of it because of the adoption. Sorry, you better find that underlying obligation, because again, the adoption is a civil commercial instrument of documentary evidence that there was something prior to this one, and that's my inherent property. And that's what they're denying. That's that birthright we spoke about earlier. See, my birthright isn't little, it's Conrady. And I have a right to demand that birthright. And they're trying to deny me, saying there was no United States business established in that name. Yes, there was. I want that business too. I want people to understand that this is a fictional system, and it doesn't matter whether somebody changed my name while I was incompetent minor at the age of 10 years and made an agreement to that name change. I didn't understand it was commercial change. Today I do. It had nothing to do with changing me. Go ahead, sister.
You just want control of that entity that
Correct.
That they say
Executive,
that it does not exist. You got to find
right.
it, right?
Executive control rather than let them administrate it.
Which,
So,
if you get
brother,
into the spiritual thing, that's our Saint Germain trust that they're controlling for us. That's our birthright as a child of creation. From the time of creation, we inherit all. I mean, we're here as takers with care of our Mother Earth. So,
Yep.
so basically, Keith, those titles, the birth certificate titles to automobiles, any titles are document of titles because of the way they are written. Am I correct?
Absolutely. It's got a title on it.
and they all have bonds attached to them.
Well, yeah,
Don't forget that.
anytime you see a registered mark or a trademark or a copyright, there's bonds attached to it automatically, and those should be in all uppercase names.
And we're the only ones that can endorse those bonds. Therefore, in case they harm us,
Absolutely.
the real
Absolutely.
blood person, you know.
So anyway, that brings us to the end of our stream tonight. I hope you guys understand that transfer of title, expenses incidental to transfer of title to the agency, expenses incidental to transfer of title to the United States, expenses incidental to transfer of title to the Postal Service, and that's why I got 3 of them. They're all titles, and expenses are incidental to the transfer of that title. So I'm going to expenses incidental to transfer title to the agency. I'm going to administrate one or execute one with the Social Security. I'm going to execute one with the United States, and I'm going to execute one with the local county registrar that initially entered it into the postal system under their contract with the Postal Service.
Hey, Keith, get a copy of whoever you interact with. If they're in commerce, ask for a copy of, and they should be normal. This should be everyday occurrence for them. Ask for a copy of their bond and their bond licensing, and just have it. Ask them per copy, and that is in case they have any harm against you. I just recently did this, and the court recorder has a 200. She was kind of, she took a pause, and I'll be right back, and so she came back with a copy of it, and it's $250,000 if she does not record. She started treating me really well. I mean,
Yeah.
before it's like, oh, we can't take this, we can't take that. She started really, because it's an insurance policy, basically. We can endorse it, nobody else can. Every judge, every cop, every single buddy in commerce has one. They must.
Yep.
And that's our authority. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, Brother Keith, because the Postal Service is the registered agent and the address is the security and the number attached to the address is the bonded number, that's where the insurance and everything comes in for the entitlement over the people, where they collateralize that. Is that also correct?
Correct. That's the original birth registry by the birth clerk. That's that informant document, the statement of live birth. That is then recorded at the county registrar, post to post,
That's
from the hospital post to the county register post. That's the postal service.
what I'm dancing around now. I've been out of the system for, like you, probably 9 years, 10 almost. And I'm at a point where I need to get mail, but I don't have any address whatsoever. And I'm like, do I get a P.O. box? I mean, I'm kind of up in the air. Everything seems to have its own pros and cons on it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing I'm going to do before I initiate all this is go down and get a P.O. box.
Well, I had one, and I live in a small town. I think you might as well. But I'm thinking about a private mail box, post office box.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
that would be
private
under rural route. Go ahead, John.
You can get a private mailbox at the UPS stores.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what I was thinking. Is that what you
Yeah,
do, John?
Yes, that's what I do.
How's that worked out for you? Good.
Good. No junk mail.
Yeah. So I might. Yeah. I was just wondering your position on it.
That's the same thing with this online email stuff. You know, I've bragged about having a Yahoo email for over 25 years, and that's because they're the first email site, right? So they get the top of the line and first out cybersecurity stuff. Same with Windows. I do not
Yahoo is bigger than Google.
Yeah, I do not have anything extra on my computer when it comes to security other than Windows. Otherwise, I am diligent when I click on sites and stuff. I'm going to check and make sure. I check to see if there's a padlock on it and stuff. I understand that if it says not secured, there are certain things about that site I can still enter. Anything like porn or stuff that doesn't come on my computer. I don't deal with them kind of sites. And that's the importance of learning how to protect yourself. And that's why I have also my own private email, a .art extension. It's important both in the real world and the electronic world.
I run Windows 7 on this. I mean, it's fast, everything I need. By accident, I got into the BIOS of it, and I found all the trust agreements. Oh my God. Every single key has an agreement with probably, I don't know, the lists were so long, but I went through probably half of my keys, and you can actually go in as administrator and create your own. And I deleted them. I'm like, I probably ruined my computer. Well, guess what? It made it like bulletproof, and I don't have any issues with it whatsoever.
Yeah, you can technically go in and set your keyboard up, guys, so that when you push the A, it enters Z, or when you push the A, it enters the A for Spanish or whatever. So you can actually type in foreign languages. You can do this kind of stuff. Remember, guys, I
couldn't.
I played a large part, not a large part, a small part, I guess. I can't be, but I played a part in developing this internet. Same with my parents and all of the other federal employees and stuff that had all of this technology frontline first and foremost before the general public. And that's who they actually experiment with on the technologies. They use other federal employees and they issue these new technologies to them first so they can check it out and give their input. And that's what I was doing at 10 years of age. I was building and programming the computers with my mom and dad and one of their friends. And then when I got to high school and they started a computer program in my sophomore year or my junior year, I was up there helping the teacher teach computer programming. That's back when we were still using binary. Then it went to BASIC. Then it went to Pascal and then Fortran. You know, today we're
It's
so
like all
far
these
from that.
codes, to you, you're like a book. You know
Yeah.
all of this stuff. I mean, it's crazy. It's impressive, and it's really helpful for me. I appreciate it.
That's back when we
All
had
glory goes
command
to him.
lines, Keith.
Yeah, yeah, the landlines and everything. You know, that's one of the unique.
Remember, we are all on assignment through the Most High, so He gave us different orders to fulfill.
Oh yes, exactly.
Right,
We're
right.
all
And the
joined together here for a reason, right now,
yeah,
here and now.
yeah, and the landlines were the first step towards that spiritual communication of wireless. Think about it. The wireless connections that we have today are much like a spiritual communication.
Yeah,
Remember the
the whole
first
thing goes back to
telephone?
spiritual.
Exactly. And remember the first landline it was called Ma Bell.
Yep.
Hmm.
All
Yep.
right. Well, with that, we are at the end of our stream. If you guys have anything to say, please do so now.
Hey Keith, you wanted to end or talk about you mentioned things that are good for us. Get off this track a little. And so I just want to throw something in as a health thing, and that is magnesium. We're all low on it, and at least I'll speak for myself. I was low on magnesium and joints. I just went through it and looked at what magnesium does for the body. And are they crystals? Good for you. And so I did some research. Well, I was like, I take magnesium and calcium and all these ums. And I found out that our body does not absorb magnesium through pills and through things of that nature. So what I did,
Right.
our skin is a huge sponge. It's the biggest organ we have. So you take magnesium, get magnesium crystals, Amazon, wherever you get them, magnesium chloride crystals, and they're not expensive. And you dissolve them, put them in distilled water, and swirl. Keep on adding until they don't dissolve anymore. They will actually stop melting into the water. At that point, you can take the water out, put it into a glass bottle with a sprayer on it. After you get out of the shower or bath, spritz yourself with it. And I suggest, because of the way you made the magnesium, it's super saturated. It'll sting you. So you could take a dropper out of that bottle you made, 15 drops in a little spray bottle with distilled water, spritz yourself and let yourself air dry. You will get that magnesium.
Yeah,
It helped. I did it. It helped in like a week. I started feeling the difference.
and this is
So
what I talk about them synthetics. See, synthetics are not really good for you because they only mimic certain things. And Robert's talking exactly straight up truth there. We are alkaline or alchemical bodies. Our body is an electrolytic system. In other words, we perform electrolysis in our body.
we need the minerals.
Magnesium is one of those metal minerals that acts as a anode or cathode in accordance with the other nutrients and minerals in your body. And so in the crystal form, our body's being crystalline as well, liquid crystal and actual crystals in your eyes and ears, both, as well as your pineal gland. Now, when you think about that, you have crystals in your eyes, 1, 2, crystals in your ears, 3, 4. That's 4 points in a square base. And then in your pineal gland creates a pyramid.
Yeah. And you're right. And
That's what they're talking about with eyes to see and ears to hear. You have to have your crystals aligned. You have to understand how those crystals align and why those crystals are so important. They're the ones that provide for the electrical energy.
And the
our
anode
bodies
is
have to have those minerals so it passes them through. And we got to stay grounded to earth with our bare feet. So
Yep.
our negative goes, it's a big cycle of life. But it's
Yep.
true.
right,
It's really.
and those anodes would be the breaking down, and the cathode would be the building up.
Correct. This is how they do metallurgy. You know, when they want to gold plate something or something like that, they'll use an electrolysis system, and the metal that they're using to attract will be the cathode, and then they'll use another metal that will work as an anode in accordance with whatever metal they're gold plating. That's how they do it. So anyway, if that's all we got to say, I am out. I got some other things I got to go do. Anybody?
Peace.
Nope,
Thank you
good
very
show.
much
Put
for your
some
time.
things in the chat for you, Brother Keith. Just look those over. I yield. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Keith.
You bet. You bet. All glory goes to him. What about you, John?
Nope, I'm good. Another good show.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, guys. You guys know me. I love you. I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. And that's to say, I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't respect me. That's on you. So may God bless you and have a good night.